Happy Monday, Dog Nation. My name is Brandon Adams. This is DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans, presented today by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. Hope your 4th of July weekend was a really good one, and let's stop and take a moment to appreciate just what a broadcast professional I am to talk to you as if it really was Monday, because while it is for you, it is not for me. We are pre-recording this show. I just wished you a happy 4th of July weekend. Hope you enjoyed that, but for me, I haven't experienced mine yet because we're recording this several days in advance. That is the kind of broadcast professional I am, though, nonetheless. We are going to have a really fun show today for the very first time, pre-recorded on video. And I'm going to keep saying that because I'm not going to try to pull the wool over your eyes and pretend that I'm here while I'm actually not. But it is a good show. It's John Stinchcomb, as per usual. Some fun stuff on Georgia, Florida off the top. Actually, a couple of interesting hot takes on the Gators that are not, this is not necessarily like a jab at Florida. It's just kind of an interesting take that's out there that I think could go at least a ways towards determining who wins the SEC East this season. So even though it's pre-recorded, even though we're still right in the dead of summer, we are still fully loaded and ready to go, and glad to have you with us. As I said, it's DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans, presented today by Pella Window and Door of Georgia, and it begins right now.
Today's episode of DawgNation Daily is brought to you by Pella Window and Door of Georgia, viewed to be the best.
Presented by DawgNation.com, this is DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans. Here's your host, Brandon Adams.
So you hear me talk a lot about the Georgia-Florida rivalry from the perspective of me being a Georgia fan, viewing the Gators as a rival. I've both seriously and kiddingly said over the years that a good Georgia fan's a Gator hater, that you could choose a lot of teams to hate, but if you'll choose to make Florida the team you hate the most, that'll be the best scenario for Georgia over the course of the long haul. Having a team like that in your division that you use as your measuring stick, have a team like that, a program like that, that you constantly work to be better than over the course of the long haul, that's just a good thing for the Georgia program. That's why we believe, we say at the end of every single show that we do, that a good Georgia fan is a Gator hater first and foremost. Now, while we talk about that a lot, maybe one of the things that we don't maybe spend enough time talking about is the nature of the Georgia-Florida rivalry overall, not just the hatred between the two programs, the back and forth stuff between the two fan bases, but admittedly, and it takes two to tango here, you have to give the Gators some credit for this, they have, along with Georgia, created a game in Jacksonville every year that I think of as still really special. And I know whether the Georgia-Florida game should be in Jacksonville, a little bit of a hot topic, kind of controversial, and different people feel different ways about that. I am a fan of the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I like being a part of it. I like the golf. I like the cocktails. I like the weather. I like everything else that comes with being in the beach in the late fall of the year. Who could not? It is a special game. Now, before the two teams played last year, Georgia coach Kirby Smart was asked, hey, the fact that this, SEC East is a big part of, that's the prize that we've, recently associated with winning the cocktail party against Florida. Is that what makes this game big? And Smart said, no, there's a lot more than just a division crown that goes into determining why Georgia-Florida is a special rivalry. I liked the way that Smart said this past year, and I wanted you to hear that here today on DawgNation Daily, presented by Pella Window and Door.
That's what makes it a rivalry, you got so much at stake. So, I really don't think that it would matter if it was about the SEC East or not. It's Georgia-Florida. So that in itself carries a lot of weight. The game, the history, the tradition, the fact you have a Hall of Fame for the game alone, and players can be remembered for their performances in that game alone is pretty big. But the SEC East is always, it weighs heavily into this game. I wouldn't say it determines it all the time.
I think it's good for Smart to say that because one of the things I value about college football, and I've always said, I like college football better than the NFL. It's my favorite brand of any kind of sport. I love college football, and one of the things I do love about it is the way in which the individual games themselves can feel like their own championship, regardless of divisions and things like that. You just love the idea of the fact that the game itself has its own level of prestige, and Smart describes a lot of those ways. The 50-50 crowd, the fact the game itself has its own Hall of Fame, all of that's real and true. Yet we also know that the battle for the SEC East has become a little bit more competitive as Florida's gotten better these last couple of years. When Georgia first won the division under Smart in 2017, Florida wasn't very good at all. Last couple of years have been much better, and so that kind of is on the line. And many of you have been paying close attention this offseason with a lot of the hype that Florida has got. Various sports writers saying this, various, talking head on TV saying that. There has been a lot of build up of Florida, hype up of the Gators. And the one thing we've pointed out a lot when it comes to this kind of stuff is when it doesn't cost you very much to pick Florida over Georgia, there seems to be a high willingness to do that. When there is a necessity to put your money where your mouth is, I'm talking about the gambling public here, those folks have not been quite so quick to proclaim Florida as being better than Georgia. Let me give you the latest example of this. It comes from our friends over at Saturday Down South, citing some numbers from Bet Online about the SEC East. Now, later in the show, I'll do both divisions. Let me show you SEC East for now. Their odds to win that. Once again, Saturday Down South shares it courtesy of Bet Online. Georgia is a minus 110 favorite to win the division. What does that mean? It means that Georgia is more likely to win the division than not. Florida's at plus 175. That's a little less than 2-1. Then you get to Tennessee at about 10-1, Kentucky at about 12-1, South Carolina at about 20-1, Missouri at about 25-1, and then you get to Vanderbilt, which is 100-1 when the SEC East. Now, what is all of this for, and what does all of this mean? I guess the best way to say that is this. Here on this Monday, the day after the 4th of July weekend, as we kind of get ready to, a couple weeks from now, practice is going to be beginning. A few weeks after that, the season itself going to start. And Georgia fans are kind of left to wonder what to make of all this Florida hype, whether it be, as I said before, a national writer who says this is the year that Dan Mullen gets it done, or TV guy who says there's no smarter coach out there than Dan Mullen. It doesn't cost those people anything to be wrong. Betting public, if they are wrong, money exits their account and goes into the hands of the betting people who called them on the thing that they were incorrect on. So does the fact that Bet Online still think Georgia is the SEC's favorite, does that guarantee that Georgia will win this division for this upcoming year? Obviously, that's not the case. But if you gave me a choice of favorite team Georgia, who would I rather have on my side? You know, bloviators who have no skin in the game and nothing at stake if they're wrong, or betting community that actually has to attach a numerical monetary value to the opinions that they share? I'll take the gambling folks each and every day. They view Georgia as the smart bet to win the SEC East. Who am I to say that they are wrong? My name is Brandon Adams, and this is DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans, presented today by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. It's video, it's radio, it's podcast, and for the first time ever, and I want to make this very clear. Now, radio and podcast people, you don't care about this one way or another because your experience really isn't all that different, but this is the first time we've ever done a pre-recorded edition of DawgNation Daily on video. We, for reasons I won't bore you with, needed to do that here today. And so this was pre-recorded. It's going to be fun. John Stinchcomb in a minute for a Marlow's Tavern Insider Update. But for the first time for us, pre-recorded here on the DawgNation video channels. We appreciate you being with us nonetheless. And we appreciate our friends at Pella Window and Door of Georgia for making it possible. And, of course, we appreciate them for their mission to equip as many houses as possible with energy-efficient windows and doors. That means better curb appeal, which could lead to higher resale value. That means keeping the energy inside your house where it's supposed to be, not escaping outside those doors and windows this time of year when the air conditioning is working overdrive. That means a lot to you. And they got a great offer for you there as well. Between now and July 15th, you can get 10% off your entire project, or no money down, no payments, no interest for 12 months. Also offer the best lifetime warranty, top-of-the-line equipment, unparalleled expertise. They can make that initial consultation very easy for you. If you still want to do that via video, they can do that for you, contactless. Just easy description of all the installations options and everything else you have at your disposal. A couple different ways to get in touch. It's PellaBranch.com. That's the website. PellaBranch.com, or if you're watching on video, as you see on your screen, telephone number 404-445-2979. That's 404-445-2979. Pella Window and Door of Georgia. They're viewed to be the best. Okay, before I get John Stinchcomb today, as a part of a Marlow's Tavern Insider Update, let me stay on the subject of Georgia, Florida for a moment. And I don't really know what you do with this as of yet. This is just interesting to me. There is kind of a growing chatter online about something regarding Florida. Now, it's ironic that a lot of the reasons why certain media people pick Florida to win the SEC East is because of the presence of Florida quarterback Kyle Trask. And yet there seems to be this insinuation that maybe Trask may not be the long-term quarterback for the Gators. There's a guy named Seth Galena who writes for Pro Football Focus, and he was looking at all the quarterbacks that played for Florida a year ago. According to Pro Football Focus own gradings, Emory Jones graded way higher on their scale than any of the other quarterbacks who played for Florida a year ago. Franks, who started the year as the starter, and then Kyle Trask, who came in for Franks after he got injured. But according to Seth Galena, it was Emory Jones who, when playing, was the better overall player on that front. Then there's this other account that I follow on Twitter. This is not like a famous guy or anything, but he's a pretty good Twitter account all the way around. It's at CFB Max's. It's the tailgate tent. And he wrote this the other day, and I thought this was kind of interesting. Not necessarily a famous guy, just kind of an interesting take. He says he thinks that Florida has a higher upside, better chance to win the SEC if Emory Jones is there as opposed to Kyle Trask. He says, what Kyle Trask may do with the absence of the running game, the absence of the wide receivers from a year ago, may work against most of the teams that Florida plays, but it won't work against the very best teams that it plays. Kind of an interesting take all the way around from him. I guess it kind of leaves you to wonder, if you're a Georgia fan, would you be more concerned about facing an Emory Jones? He does bring the extra dimension of his legs. As the guy on Twitter pointed out, this was a guy that Urban Meyer once recruited very hard. Is that a more concerning quarterback matchup for you? I guess, in a way, it kind of leaves my head spinning from the standpoint of, hold on, I've been told that Kyle Trask is the reason why Florida's so dangerous. Now he's not even the best option to start at quarterback. It seems hard to imagine both those things being true, but it is out there. Seemingly a growing sentiment of folks pushing for maybe Emory Jones to at least play a lot more for Florida this season, if not eventually overtake Kyle Trask. So kind of weird chatter coming out of Gainesville. It's good to have you with us here today on DawgNation Daily, presented by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. Before we're done today, we'll look a little bit more deeply at some of those odds to win the various SEC divisions. For now, though, let's talk to John Stinchcomb, get him as a part of a Marlow's Tavern Insider Update.
From Athens and across the SEC or wherever the recruiting trail may lead, here's a DawgNation.com insider.
John Stinchcomb, I want you to notice what kind of broadcast professional I am, how smooth all of this is, as I wish you a happy Monday, even though it's not when we're recording this, as I wish you a happy 4th of July, even though 4th of July hasn't happened yet when you and I are speaking. But for our audience, they've just enjoyed their 4th of July weekend. They're maybe back to work today after having done all of that. So you and I, as broadcast professionals, will pretend that it's Monday, the day after the 4th of July weekend, even though as we're recording this, that is not the case. And yet you and I think, are both expert, adept enough, adroit, if you'll allow me to use a fancy word. We're adroit enough to get this done here. So, John, I'll welcome you to join me in this discussion.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'm just going to speak it into existence that we had an amazing 4th of July. And, for both families, it was just a great time to celebrate all the things that are going right in the world.
For sure.
There seems to be so much that could use some extra attention, shall we say.
I think that's well said all the way around. Before we get into the serious topic of football, what does the 4th of July mean for the Stinchcomb household? I'm assuming there's some grilling going on, maybe some swimming pool stuff going on. Are y'all fireworks people? How does the 4th of July typically go in the Stinchcomb household?
It is usually my favorite holiday outside of Christmas and Thanksgiving, because we bring out a 100-foot plastic tarp,
wow,
a fire hose, and some soap, and have the world's biggest slip and slide into our pond. So
wow,
there's a bunch of families come out. We usually have more than 50 people, and it's just a good old redneck celebration of the 4th of July.
Now, is this the kind of thing is this the kind of thing that Matt Stinchcomb and his family will make the trek across Gwinnett County to come be a part of, or is this just folks that live a little closer to you?
He is yet to make it. We've
Really?
had cousins come out, and for whatever, maybe he's too highbrow for our activities, but we usually have the best time, and it's just a good way of celebrating our country and celebrating with friends and family. And unfortunately, this year we're not going to be able to do it. We're just going to have the family at the house, maybe some pool time and some grilling, but that's usually how we celebrate.
Well, let me tell you this. Next year, assuming the world's back to normal again and everybody's able to be together and within 6 feet of each other and things like that, obviously you do this to spend time with friends and family, but if you wanted to make the DawgNation video channels pop, a little video of you sliding into the mud, into the pond there, I have a feeling that might do pretty well on some of our social channels if you'd like to be a part of that.
Duly noted. I'll keep that in the back of my mind.
So let me turn the attention to football here just for a moment. And one of the things we got some reporting on last week was that Jamie Newman, the what I would presume to be the Georgia starter for this upcoming year, was part of the Elite 11 camp as a counselor, to kind of use that camp language. And, Newman's been on my mind a little bit, John. I guess I want to say it this way. He could have stayed at Wake Forest, right, and been a good quarterback. And I would say that would have very much been on the NFL radar of most teams, because he probably kind of already was a little bit, even before he announced his intention to transfer to Georgia. But I think you come to Georgia for a reason, and you think about Elite 11 quarterback camps, best, upcoming 2021 prospects, the guys that go there to work with them, also, the best kind of their crop currently in college football. And there's a certain thing about coming to Georgia to prove that you're an alpha, to kind of prove that you are, quarterback is a position of leadership, that you're a leader among leaders, you're a quarterback among quarterbacks. And boy, getting a chance to watch Jamie Newman go out there and attempt to try to prove that, attempt to try to, really make a bigger name for himself at a place like UGA. When I think about where fireworks might come for Georgia this upcoming season, to use a 4th of July phrase, that's one of the places that I really kind of zero in on, the notion that this could be a really fun year watching Newman come to Georgia to get the thing that he was never going to get at Wake Forest, which is a lot of attention.
Yes, and one of the first things that he said as to why he was coming to the University of Georgia is to compete against one of the best defenses in the country. So he's looking at the Monday through Friday work that he's going to get against Georgia's defense and how much better of a player he'll be at the end of the season because of it. So you got to love his mentality of wanting to take his game to the next level in the college ranks before he makes the jump to the NFL. I think he did himself a great service, hopefully, and also will be a real boost for the University of Georgia, at least for this 2020 season.
Here's the comparison I'll make with Newman. If you follow the NFL the last few days, you've seen Cam Newton sign with the New England Patriots, and there's a degree to which, prior to Cam signing with New England, there was this thought of, well, Jared Stidham's going to be a great quarterback. There've been some, folks in the NFL who think, that they've been saying that Stidham should have been playing somewhere all along. He's kind of gotten some love. He's kind of gotten some of that Patriot hype because people assumed he'd be the starter. And then when Cam Newton comes, all of that kind of changes. You move away from Stidham, you kind of move towards Cam, and you've probably seen some of that play out. I think at Georgia, you had the potential of seeing kind of the same thing go down, where it was hype for Newman. Then all of a sudden, JT Daniels arrives, and it's all of a sudden, well, he's the new shiny toy, so let's go start giving Daniel some of that hype, and let's forget a little bit about Jamie Newman. And the one thing I've cautioned Georgia fans on, John, and any media member who might care about my opinion, is don't be so quick to turn your attention off Newman just because JT Daniels is here, even if Daniels is still eligible. I think that what I've grown to learn about Jamie Newman is interesting to me, and I think he has, while I won't guarantee anyone being successful, I think that Newman has a great chance of being successful. And while I am excited about seeing JT Daniels in a Georgia uniform, the presence of Daniels doesn't do anything to lessen my excitement about what I have for Jamie Newman for this upcoming season.
I think that's a fair assessment, and here's what I like and what I think is important to look at. The reason why Jamie Newman chose to come to the University of Georgia was not because he didn't have a starting position waiting for him at Wake Forest.
Right.
He was the guy at Wake. He was the centerpiece of that offense, but yet was willing to bet on himself to compete at a more prestigious football school at the University of Georgia. For JT Daniel, who is accomplished in his own right, he's leaving a situation that probably wasn't as promising as what Jamie had at Wake Forest. So their situations coming in are very different. I think that's important to take a look at. I think JT Daniel is a talented quarterback, but he doesn't have the accomplishment that Jamie brings to the table, nor is his situation comparable for the reason what brought them to the University of Georgia. So I think the excitement for Jamie Newman should persist, and it's really he's the lead horse in the race, with JT Daniel being an exciting prospect, along with a couple of others when you're thinking long-term for the University of Georgia. But with this 2020 season, I think it's Jamie Newman's position to lose.
We're kind of open-ended today, just kind of looking at the team just from a sort of a general standpoint, and I want to move on to talk about running back for a moment, because one of the things that's out there is this is obviously a running back core that's in flux a little bit. DeAndre Swift's been the team's leading rusher the last couple of years, and he's gone. And there are high expectations for Zamir White, but maybe not quite as high as the typical Georgia running back might usually have. I think people are ready to see the debut of Kendall Milton, but there's still some unknown about an incoming freshman. People, I think, have some excitement about, James Cook or Kenny McIntosh, but they are maybe lesser known commodities than what we typically might expect from the Georgia running back core. John, you, in addition to being a former player, are also a fan. You want to see Georgia win, and when you think about the possibility that Georgia can be as good as all of us hope they can be, how big of a concern is it for you that Georgia is less proven at the running back spot than they maybe have been at any year prior to, like, say, Todd Gurley's arrival at Georgia almost a full decade ago?
I think there's plenty of position groups you can be concerned about. Running back is not one of them for me. I think the talent level is there. I think you have a number of players that bring a different skill set, and you're bringing in an NFL coach that was able to utilize different players' skills to attack a defense. So when you see a Zamir White and a James Cook, they bring two very different things to the table. And I think you've got a staff now that can start to highlight and utilize those players in a much more efficient way. Hopefully it's more efficient, more effective than what we saw in 2019, because candidly, from where I sit, you had the best running back in college football, DeAndre Swift, and you weren't able to capitalize on it the way you would hope, the way any fan would hope. So I'm expecting more from the running game this year than what we saw, even if it's with a more unproven group and less an individual star in what we had with Swift. So I think the talent is there. I like the combination with the potential this new staff brings. And I'm excited about it, honestly. I think there's other position groups that you could probably question, will we have a recession in production? But from where I sit, I think the running back group could be more effective and more efficient, despite having lost one of the best college football players in his position group with the loss of Swift.
So I'm actually curious to find out which position groups you do feel like could be the bigger concerns. I want you to tell me about that coming up in a moment. Before that, though, let me remind folks, it's our Marlow's Tavern Insider Update with the former UGA All-American John Stinchcomb here as a part of DawgNation Daily here today. I know many of you over the course of the past weekend enjoyed some of that house-made magic from our friends at Marlow's. One of the things that's been great about Marlow's this spring and summer are those specialties they've been doing around the holidays. It was Memorial Day, it was Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day. They've just done a lot of cool stuff around that, and the 4th of July was really no different. A lot of folks getting together at their local tavern or having the food ordered to go and then enjoying from the comfort of home. If you go to marlowstavern.com, you can find out more about the tavern in your neighborhood, serving and open again, but also the great to-go options that are available there. It's chef-inspired food, it's craft cocktails, it's all the stuff you've come to expect from Marlow's Tavern, enjoyed in the restaurant or to go for those of you that would still prefer to do that. marlowstavern.com for more details. As I said before, marlowstavern.com, and John Stinchcomb with us as a part of the Marlow's Tavern Insider Update. So, John, you say, hey, on the list of big concerns I have, running back not necessarily there. Where would you, kind of middle of the summer here, looking towards the season, where would your biggest concerns lie at the moment?
Well, I want to see where the production comes in the passing game. I want to see. It's hard because there's so many moving parts. Outside of Pickens, Tom Blaylock is coming off a significant knee injury. There's a lot of potential in that room, but I don't know who that next 2-3 guys are going to be. And is it the quote-unquote committee rotation that you're going to see? How about tight end? How is that going to factor into this passing game? I know you bring in one of the most talented looking on paper receiving tight ends who could be a great target, a big old frame in Washington, and there's an excitement there, but there's much to be proven in that group. I think there's the talent, but there's just more question marks to me as to how it all fits together. And I think the timing of it, of happening with this COVID off season where you don't have spring ball, you don't have the on the field work, you don't have the 7-on-7 and Skelly practice to get timing and rhythm and understanding players' abilities. I think that really rears its head much more in this early part of the season than running back. I think that's a position where you get some skilled players, You have them understand the offense, and you can create situations for them to succeed just by knowing the type player they are. I don't think you have that ease at the wide receiver position. I think that comes with a lot more chemistry and understanding players' abilities and how they complement one another. And we just haven't had the time on task to get that at this point.
Let me finish with this on the other side of the ball for a moment. I guess something that would kind of rise the level of a concern potentially is, do you think a team in 2020 can still win a national championship being led more by its defense than its offense? That's Georgia's identity right now, thought of as more of a defensive team. Can that profile still lead a team to a national championship?
My answer is yes. I think the way Georgia is set up, they can. They just have to complete the complementary football of the which is what they've been shooting for the past the whole Kirby Smart era. The defense has done nothing but improve, whereas I think there has been a lack of complementary football created from this offense. We haven't been able to utilize and duly respect the amount of productivity the defense has created. And can that work? Yes. It just has to come with more offense to put the pressure on the opponent. The defense that Georgia's fielded has been elite. I think that's still a winning recipe. So I'm not trying to be mealy-mouthed. I'm not trying to speak both sides of the story. I think Georgia's set up that they're going to challenge any offense. With that said, what LSU showed last year and what we talked about last week of you got to be able to affect the passer, that's still an area of improvement that we can see from this Georgia defense. And you got the potential. Now it's just maximizing that to raise that defense up to that very next level of being truly elite and the cornerstone for any team.
Make sure you check out John Stinchcomb as part of our Marlow's Tavern Insider Update each week here on DawgNation Daily. Go to marlowstavern.com for more information about that chef-inspired food, craft cocktails, what they call the house-made magic, the special care they take with every item on the menu. You can find out more about that at marlowstavern.com. Get it to go. Enjoy it in the tavern, inside in the dining room right there in your neighborhood. Check that out online at marlowstavern.com. Sure enough, John, thanks for being with us here today. Hope you continue to enjoy your summer. It's always fun to talk some Georgia football with you, and we'll look forward to getting a chance to hopefully do that with you soon as well.
Always a pleasure. I just look forward to hopefully actually seeing some football and less talking about the mythical experience of football.
Me too,
at
John.
some point.
Me too. Good stuff.
Appreciate it, BA. Go Dogs.
Let's take a look around the rest of the league. This is SEC Through.
Yeah, listen, John is just a good guy, good to talk some football with, always a lot of fun. We appreciate him being here. Part of our Marlow's Tavern Insider Update here on DawgNation Daily, presented by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. Let me shift gears to the SEC Through, and for those of you just joining us on video, the reason why I keep saying this is because, for whatever reason, this has always been a very big deal to me. Now, you know, the podcasts are always pre-recorded, so you would assume that's pre-recorded. The radio show is also, most of you that listen in Athens know, it's recorded earlier than it airs at noon each day. Video, I don't think we've ever done a non-live version of DawgNation Daily presented by Pella Window and Door on video, but today we are. We'll be back in our normal situation tomorrow, me interacting with each of you, but today this is pre-recorded, so good enough for all of you to be with us. We appreciate you doing that today, and John Stinchcomb there as well on that front. I want to go back here as part of our SEC Through to where I was at the top of the program. I talked some Georgia-Florida stuff off the top, but also in particular the division odds as posted by Bet Online, shared by Saturday on South. Can I see the SEC East on this again? We'll do the West in a moment. Let me do the East here for a moment. So I talked about Georgia, still a minus favorite to win the division at minus 110 compared to Florida at plus 175. Then you get to Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, Missouri, Vanderbilt. Let me talk Tennessee for a moment. Tennessee at 10-1 is one of those teams that's going to get the attention of some of the casual fans. It's going to get the attention of some in the media because there's been a lot of different kind of hype than Florida, but Tennessee's developed a lot of chatter over the course of the offseason. Jeremy Pruitt seemingly building something through recruiting, and now after having finished the year on a high note, got a bowl win against Indiana, won some games near the end of the year, kept it closer than the experts would have thought against Alabama. How does Tennessee build off of that? So let's spend a minute talking about Tennessee on this. Here's how Tennessee could have a better season than a year ago and potentially make that 10-1 odds to win the SEC East come into play. Because the truth is, Tennessee does not have a 10% chance of winning the SEC East. Those are kind of phony odds. But what could potentially happen for them, the one thing that does not get enough talk is Jim Chaney, I think, is a pretty good offensive coordinator. Not every Georgia fan liked him, and there's, probably good reasons for that. But if you go back and look at what Chaney did with Jake Fromm back in 2018, much better numbers, obviously, than Fromm had in 2019. You'll say they also had better receivers in 2018. That's fine. But there was no receiver, not even McCole Hardman, who's doing great things for the Kansas City Chiefs. There was really no receiver for Georgia in 2018 that had some huge statistical year. The leading receiver for Georgia had fewer than 600 yards in 2018. So it's not like one receiver was bailing out Georgia over and over again. It's just a better offense, and I'm going to give Chaney some of that credit. So now Chaney gets to work with what may be Jared Garantano trying to correct the record once and for all for his time at Tennessee, or maybe it's a Harrison Bailey coming in there. It's the work that Chaney could potentially do with the quarterback that could maybe make the Tennessee at 10-1 seem interesting. But honestly, not only would Georgia have to fall apart, have a ton of injuries, Florida probably would there as well. I don't think Georgia's going to have the potential of being bad enough to put Tennessee into this. But could Tennessee potentially beat Florida? I don't think it's unheard of. I think that could potentially happen. You see those odds there. Frankly, Kentucky, South Carolina, Missouri, Vanderbilt to the tune of winning the SEC East, they're not worth discussing, although I have said I do think that South Carolina will be better than some probably think. Let me talk SEC West for a moment, because here's where things get interesting. While Alabama is a minus favorite to win the division at minus 125, look at how low the numbers are for the other teams there. A&M's 4-1, LSU's 5-1, Auburn's 7-1. You don't get until like the bottom half of the division at Mississippi State to find a team with like double-digit odds, 14-1 Mississippi State to win the division. So it's one of those situations that maybe Alabama on paper thought to be the slightly better team than Georgia, but the competition in the SEC West, at least at the top end, is a lot more worth paying attention to. I think LSU struggles this year in the absence of Joe Burrow and Joe Brady. I think Scott Linehan, the passing game coordinator, was a fine hire. I don't think that Miles Brennan's the kind of quarterback you can win the SEC West with. I think this is a step-back year for the national champions in LSU. I think that Auburn loses too much on defense to be a real contender comparison to Alabama. Now, are they going to beat some teams? They are. Is that a tough out for, like, say, Georgia in October? Auburn's still a tough team to beat individually speaking, but it's not a team that can win the SEC West. The only other team that I'd give any consideration to for winning the SEC West is Texas A&M. Can you show me the graphic one more time on video if you don't mind so I can see their odds one more time? What is A&M to win the SEC West? Let me see that one more time if you don't mind. So they're sitting there at 4-1. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. I could see that as we play the fight song and wrap things up today. I could see that coming into play with A&M potentially being the one team in the SEC West other than Alabama that I could potentially see as a contender there to that. You got experience at quarterback with Kellen Mond. That matters. I think that Jimbo Fisher's a pretty good developer of quarterback talent over the long haul. I would say over the long haul, he's been better than Dan Mullen has been. Defensively, Mike Elko is one of the most underrated coordinators on either side of the ball in the SEC. So if you're looking for someone other than Alabama to win the SEC West, for me it's A&M, although the Crimson Tide all the way around would still be my pick there. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. at our normal spot here on DawgNation Daily, presented by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. That means normal, me interacting with you with comments and everything else. We appreciate you being here and doing this with us pre-recorded here today, and hope you have a great day. And let me do a little bit of math here in my head and project and say that 1,346 days. That's our Gator Hater Updater. We'll see you tomorrow on DawgNation Daily, presented by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. And on video. I can't talk to you because we're not live, but I will give you R.S. Andrews School down here and remind you that for air conditioning, heating, plumbing, electric, R.S. Andrews does all of those things, and they can do all those things for you as well. If your air conditioning unit were to go out, well, that's a disaster. So prevent that from happening. Now, eventually, yours may need to be replaced. We all know that, but in the early going here, you can prevent that from happening by getting that smiley tune-up. Why do they call it a smiley tune-up at R.S. Andrews? Because story after story, they've been delivering smiles. They can deliver a smile for you, but you need to find them online at rsandrews.com. They'll get your system back to factory fresh spec, get you ready to go for the summer that is still yet to come. So since I can't take your comments, let me do this for a moment. Just kind of looked ahead to what is to come. You heard John Stinchcomb say this. Hey, just hoping for some football. Like the one thing I didn't want to do on today's show is, I feel like at a certain point in time you got to talk about the coronavirus stuff that's out there, but you don't want to do too much of it because it sucks. It's just a bad conversation all the way around. You just don't want to do it. So we're going to put that aside for the moment and say, here's what I'm still looking forward to. SEC Media Days has been postponed, and we don't really know what date it's going to be yet, but eventually it's going to go down, and we'll hear a lot from the Georgia players and Kirby Smart himself in the upcoming season. We'll kind of hear that on the rest of the SEC there as well. Normally that's one of those big centerpiece days right in the center of the summer. It'll be a little different than that this year, but at some point in time we'll hear from these guys on that. Georgia, just a couple of weeks from now, will be getting going with a little bit sort of next phase of the football development stuff, coaches getting more involved, practices to come, real actual practices to come shortly after that. And then it's the season itself, which I do believe is going to take place. I don't care how many naysayers line up, and I'm not smart enough to refute their evidence and their reasons why. I'm not smart enough to do that. I don't pretend to be smarter than I am, but I'm willing to make a bet here and there, and this is a bet I'm willing to make. The season itself is going to take place, and DawgNation is going to be right at the center of all of that. Is it going to be a little bit different? Yes. Some of you have brought this up before. Hey, DawgNation invasions and things like that. Some of the best laid plans of mice and men were kind of, put to the test by some of the coronavirus stuff. Admittedly, that's true, and yet there's still a lot of opportunities to have fun. In fact, we were talking about some of this kind of stuff yesterday, kind of a impromptu meeting of, well, if you can't do full-fledged DawgNation invasions, what can you do? How can you make it still fun? How can you make it still feel big and enjoyable for the people who are a part of that? We got a lot of companies who want to do that with us, and listen, I'm very, very optimistic about the season that's to come, about DawgNation's role in covering all of that, what UGA is going to be like on the field. I'm in a great mood about all of that, and there ain't nobody going to drag me into negativity when it comes to stuff like that. We'll take seriously what's out there. We'll report the news as it comes. We are also full systems go, all steam ahead for, or maybe I mixed those metaphors, but you get the point I'm making. We feel like there's going to be football, and we feel like it's going to be a ton of fun. And the great news is as well, we continue to have really fun episodes of DawgNation Daily presented by Pella Window and Door every single day. And I love the way you guys bring it in the comment section. I love the way that goes down each and every day. There's never any shortage of things to talk about. It's one of my favorite things about not just UGA, but the SEC in general. There's just a lot of energy around this sport, around this league. And it's great to be able to cover that with you each and every day as a part of our show, DawgNation Daily, as a part of the R.S. Andrews Cool Down, and everything else involved there. So as we get ready to wrap up for today, let me remind you to check out the AJC online, ajc.com. You can get your Atlanta news now at ajc.com. Now, you can look back on everything that went down from the weekend. I do think it's important to still arm yourself with facts when it comes to coronavirus. The AJC has done a great job of that, covering what's been ongoing with our state. You can check that out online at ajc.com for Atlanta news now. Also, the other sports. What's going on with the Falcons as they get ready to start training camp not too long from now. Braves getting going with the start of their season. Wildly different this year, but it's going to take place. AJC.com's got good coverage of that for you. So find that online. Atlanta News Now at AJC.com. And a big thanks on the way out the door today for our friends at R.S. Andrews and the R.S. Andrews Cool Down. Air conditioning, heating, plumbing, electric. Your air conditioning unit goes out, they'll replace it for you. Water heater goes out. In many cases, they can replace that for you the same day. It's one of the reasons why. And I say this, Dari, the whole team over there, story after story, they've been delivering smiles. They can do that for you, but you've got to find them online at rsandrews.com. They bring the R.S. Andrews Cool Down. Tomorrow, when we do the R.S. Andrews Cool Down, it'll be even better because it'll be your comments again as part of that. So please make sure you check that out. Big thanks to all of you for being here today. I'll see you tomorrow morning once again at 10 a.m. for a live edition of DawgNation Daily presented by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. I'll look forward to talking to you then, everybody.